Season 2 of the Pat and JT podcast.
Oh man, I'm here at last. The first time, always gonna be the best. Come on!
Exclusively on the Parkville Network.
402-403-9478. You can text us, you can call us, you can leave us a voicemail, you can do whatever. You can go, it's Pat and JT anywhere on, Facebook, Instagram.
Social media.
Yeah, not
Pretty
Snapchat.
much everything. Pat's on TikTok. Yeah, he's all over the place.
100 likes, no big deal, on a dance that my daughter and I did the other day in the living room. I learned it in about a minute and a half.
No big deal.
Nailed it.
Right? Did you share that with anybody that could see it in your in your real life? Besides your kids' friends?
That just puts everything really into perspective. No, I haven't yet, but I will.
Okay,
I've got it on my phone. It's pretty good.
All right. Hey, we've got a guest in the studio with us, and he's been here before. Dr. Larry Widman is with us. Welcome to the studio.
How you doing, sir?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Last time you were here with the guys from Performance Mountain, with Jack Riggins, had Danny Woodhead in here, and now we can say out loud that Lauren Cook is with them as well. And let's real quick, let's kind of talk about Performance Mountain real quick and what you guys do and what you do, and just kind of in reference, because I know if you heard the podcast, you kind of know, but if you happen to miss it.
Yeah, I mean, we're Performance Mountain is a consulting company, and our focus is on high-performance mental skills, elite mindset, leadership, culture, team dynamics, and we use our range of experts that you've mentioned already to help people kind of optimize groups, people, teams to be the best they can be.
And it's working. I mean, it's working because you're working with some pretty high-profile teams as we speak.
And that are doing really well.
Right. Oh, like the Creighton Blue Jay basketball team, men's basketball team, and Husker women's volleyball team, which they're pretty good.
Yes, they are.
Well, we used to work with the Husker women's volleyball team.
Well, see, and they're pretty good. Residual, pretty good.
Speaking of which, the Creighton game, my mom and dad were watching the game. I think it was a Seton Hall game, or it was one right after, or one of the two. But anyway, my parents, I never realized what kind of fans they are of college basketball. And they like to watch the Huskers, and they like to watch Creighton, and they're super excited about what's going on with Creighton this year. And my mom, I hadn't mentioned any of the podcast. I don't even know if she listens. She doesn't know how to get a podcast. So anyway.
No, don't even try that.
So she didn't hear you were on our podcast. She doesn't know about Performance Mountain, but she said that she was so impressed. She says that watching Creighton play, she says it's like a different team. She says it's just, they seem to just share the ball so much more. And she says, and they move so fast, and they're like 3 or 4 plays ahead of the other team, or moves ahead of the other team the whole way through. I was like, well, I think I know some people would be very glad to hear this.
Yeah.
That was just her observation watching.
Yeah, it's fun to hear. I mean, I like to say that, and I'm not knocking it at all. I say that our role is small but significant, because you hate to take away from the people that are there every day. I mean, the athletic trainers, strength and conditioning, and the coaches, and all the support staff that live there every day. I mean, we come and do our role.
Yeah.
And they already have some great providers there already that provide some good mental support and performance support already. So we're just one more piece of the pie. And so, you don't ever want to overcredit, but the cool thing is that I would say what you brought up, which was really cool for us, is that if one thing I know we did early on was we helped them identify their top values, meaning in their number one value that they came up with was, as compared to last year, was sharing the ball. That they had identified that for a few different reasons, that they were more selfish at times, meaning that maybe there was a better shot to be taken. Not that they took a terrible shot, but maybe if they made one more pass, there'd even be a better shot.
And you have to take a chance.
Interesting.
To do that.
And trust each other.
Yeah.
And you have to acknowledge that is something you could do better. So it's always cool when, Coach McDermott and the players are always talking about how much better they do at sharing the ball.
Yeah.
Because we know that's something that's important to them, that they value.
They identified it.
They did. Not us. It's always great when someone else identifies. We help them identify values, but saying, all right, so what does it look like if I'm at your game? What does it look like, a team that's selfish or unselfish and shares the ball?
So what if you guys would go in there in any situation, whether it's a team or it's a business or wherever, and they identify something, but you know clearly that that's not the biggest issue? Like you could just tell then the dynamic in the room, like, okay, well, I understand
happen?
this. Yeah, does that ever happen? Or do people always identify their biggest issues?
No. A lot of times they need help coming up with their values. So a lot of times what we'll do exercises where we whiteboard them out, so that we actually encourage people to come up with maybe their top 10 values, and then short it down to their top 3, 4, or 5. But a lot of times they don't even know, so it requires a discussion. And sometimes they don't even put that value up on the board. And I'm like, a lot of teams, selfishness gets in their way. I don't see that up on the board. I'm not telling you to put it up there.
I'm not saying you're selfish.
No, I'm not saying to put it up there, but
Yeah.
would you want to consider that? Will you put it up on the board so you guys can discuss it? You decide. You can cross it off. And sometimes they haven't thought of the things that could get in their way or what their values need to be. Sometimes they need help.
Yeah.
Well, that's all a big part of like goal setting, just even for an individual, to identify. That's why they say it's so important to write down your goals and write down the pros and cons, or write down your ideas, or write down your dreams, and all that stuff, to write things down. Because a lot of people think, well, I know what I want to do. It's right here in my head. I don't need to write it down. But it's funny is when you write things down, how it makes you think intentionally about them. And then you may identify other things that are maybe more important or more likable.
Yeah. Did you know that this is true? If you just write down your goals and look at them every day, it increases your chance of success by 400%. That's it. That's the big separator.
Just identifying it and thinking about it.
Thinking about it every day and looking at them. So
and you think you're already doing that, but you're not.
Because you're daydreaming about it, or you're blah, 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 but just writing them down and thinking about it that way helps.
And look them at it, and you got to look at them every day. And because life gets in the way.
Yeah.
Right? And if it's a tough goal, which a lot of our goals are, and if life gets in the way, or it's just a challenging, difficult goal, we're not feeling like we're making the progress we want, and we don't stay on task.
It's true though. You have things that you do every day, and if something gets you off your track for the morning, that happens to me without a doubt. If all of a sudden I have to carry a lot more things out to the car than I normally do, and I realize I'm halfway down the road and I forgot my phone, which is always the first thing I grab otherwise, but my hands were full, so I felt like I had everything. And then you have to go back and start over. Or it's the same way, like you did something, it was a common practice, it's a habit, and then all of a sudden you realize you're not doing it anymore. And you're like, why did I stop?
Yeah.
When did I stop doing this? It's like so many things get put in your brain, something falls out.
Yeah.
You only have room for so many things, and something
That's
falls
true.
out. And you have to make room. And lo and behold, it's something that you really like or that's beneficial for you, like exercise. That's another one.
And exercise is one of the things that gets me off of my, like this morning, I didn't go to the gym. I was just tired. I just didn't go. And normally I go early, 4:30 or 5, like super early.
We need to talk
And
about that.
I know with people, I'm getting
We're
a lot
gonna
of
talk
grief
about
online
that.
about that. But I do, but I feel so much better. And I get grief.
It's
there,
part of
and
your habit.
It's part of my habit, but then
Routine.
then I'm also falling asleep at 8 o'clock at night. That's not another thing that I need to work on too. But, but then if you don't go to the gym, or you do go and you forget, like you said, one thing gets you off that track, and it can mess up your whole day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why it's so important to have not just the outcome goal. So we spend a lot of time on goals and setting what we call SMART goals, because human beings are really good at setting the outcome goal. I want to get in shape.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily write down the 4 or 5 things that they need to do every day to actually reach their goal. So or it might be, I want to lose weight.
Yes.
Well, what are the 5 ingredients that I need to do every day? It could be I'm signed up with Weight Watchers. It could be I'm going to exercise 5 days a week for an hour. And so we're really good at setting the outcome goal, or a New Year's resolution, whatever you want to call it. That's a classic outcome goal. But humans aren't very good at writing down what are the 4 or 5 things I need to do every day to reach that goal, because those are the things that we get off of. It's not as much that we get off of
The big picture.
Yeah, we get
right?
off, like if part of losing weight is to be in the gym 5 days a week, if we're not keeping an eye on 5 days a week, maybe it's 3 days this week because my kids were sick or I wasn't feeling well.
Right.
And then you aren't staying on the prize. And then you realize a month later, I'm not reaching my goal, but you hadn't thought about, am I slipping on the exercise part? I promised 5 days a week. I'm only doing 2. Mm-hmm. And so that's where the process goals are. So those are all the ingredients to be successful. Those are the keys to actually succeed.
To making it. So
Yes.
do you think that's probably why most people fill out their resolutions every New Year?
That is the reason.
That is because it's like you need a resolution, but then you need the subset.
Right, because the resolution is just what we call the outcome goal.
Right.
It's not the ingredients to get to the outcome. And that's why by February 1st, the research shows somewhere between 70 and 90% of New Year's resolutions are out the door by 1 month.
So then instead of saying on January 1st, I'm get into shape, I'm gonna lose 25 pounds. Instead of just saying that, then you should say what?
By
Yeah.
Well, here's an example.
Okay.
So I'll just give you the weight loss goal because I think people can relate to that.
Yes.
And you
could
can
just
tell that
say-
I'm carrying about 12 extra pounds. You
Yeah,
can
but
be
you could-
honest with me.
12. Listen to him.
15, thanks.
Whatever. 12 is such a random number. I'm carrying 12.5 pounds. It's all water
I don't
weight.
weigh myself every day.
Does that count the weight of the puffy jacket?
I don't, it's all air, right? It's all air. It's
And
zipped up
sweat.
tight.
It's gross. It's gross.
Well, assuming
Okay.
that you need to lose 12
Okay,
and a half
I'm
pounds.
just kidding.
Whatever. Okay. But you could say, I need to lose weight, right? That's
Okay.
just an outcome goal.
Right.
Or what I would say, we call it a SMART goal. So S is specific, M, can you measure it? A,
SMART, right?
Right.
I'm writing this down right now.
Is it
Okay.
achievable?
Okay.
R, is it relevant to your life? And T, there's a time component. So I would say as a SMART goal, I need to lose 20 pounds in the next 3 months. And you may add in there because my blood pressure's been up.
Okay.
Yeah, or I want to just, I want to feel
Put a
better.
reason
But
behind
so,
it.
Feeling
so
in-
the
filling
specific,
this in.
right?
Yeah.
Is I want to lose weight. That's specific. You can measure it.
Right.
Is it achievable? Well, if you're 20 pounds overweight and you want to lose 20 pounds in a month or two, maybe that's not achievable that quickly.
Right.
But you have to decide, can you achieve that goal? Is it relevant to what you need to do? If you're 2 pounds overweight and you say, I need to lose 10 or 15 pounds, maybe there's a problem.
Right.
Right.
So
right.
is it, and then you have to have a time component to measure it by. So
That's where a lot of people leave that out too.
they do. So then that's our SMART goal, but that's still just an outcome goal. So that's a great that's a better goal than just
More
I wanna
defined.
Now we got to come up with our 4 or 5 or 6 ingredients to be able to lose 20 pounds in 3 months. And that
So I
could
want to
be-
lose 20 pounds in 3 months, but still have glasses of wine every night.
Yes.
Okay,
you probably
so
can do that.
how am I going
Ooh,
to? Right,
that's a
I got to
smart
work
goal.
that in because I'm being realistic. I want to
Yes.
work in my
100%. You
my
gotta
wine,
because you can't say I'm going to not have wine or anything for 3 whole months. That's not realistic.
and then I'll
It's
be
not-
mad.
That's
Yeah.
the achievable part.
Right.
Too.
Right.
Is it realistic? Is it achievable? Can you do that within your own?
So what do I have to add to my life in order to be able to continue doing this other thing that I want to do?
And then it
Right.
always comes down to what we talk about is your why. How big is your why?
Yeah.
You know, how big is it? Because if somebody said, you know, in that goal, you know, I want to lose 10 pounds because I want to go to my 20-year reunion and look good. That's okay. That's an okay why, I would call it. But if you said, I need to lose 100 pounds in the next 6 months because my doctor said I won't be alive to walk my daughter down the aisle.
It's a huge why.
That's a big
It's a
why.
capital
And
why.
some of the biggest, toughest goals that humans accomplish in this world are when the why is big. And it may be that they've never been able to get sober. They've never been able to quit smoking, but their doctor says you're going to be on oxygen the rest of your life if you don't quit smoking now. Maybe you've never been able to quit, and now your why is so big, or wanting to walk your daughter down the aisle, or your wife is
sometimes-
taking the kids away if
Right.
you have one more bout of drinking, and it may be the time your
Yeah.
5th treatment, you finally get sober because
get
your
it
why
right.
finally.
Because
was aligned.
sometimes it's got to be
Interesting.
external. It's like maybe it's not important enough if it's just that, okay, the doctor said you're going to be on oxygen the rest of your life. That's bad.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to be able to walk your daughter down the aisle.
Yes.
That's their life that you're affecting. And then you realize.
Anytime you can make an emotional connection
Yeah.
to the goal, it's going to be, I'm not going to say it's easier, but of course goals are hard. And when you hit adversity and bumps in the road toward your goal, how do you stay motivated?
Absolutely.
It's your why. It's your why
Exactly.
that helps
That's
you
very
fight
true.
through it. It's
how
not,
important is that outcome?
Yes. And the more emotional connection it is to a person or another person or a family, you know, I mean, it's because goals are tough. They're
This
hard.
is
They're
true.
hard.
And that's the funny thing is that everybody's connected by that because like it's funny is that it's the same things. You mentioned a couple, 3 of the big ones too, the smoking, the drinking, the weight loss. Those are like the big 3. I would imagine.
I can't think of anything. I mean, gambling maybe. I
Maybe
mean, you know,
vices.
yeah,
Yeah.
some vices. Yeah.
Some other vices or anything that you can't do in moderation. Even exercise. Some people
right.
over exercise, and it's like you've got to add some other components in your life. We got to pull this in a little bit.
Well, like you
know?
just said, you can't pull because you're realistic. You want to have a glass of wine every night. You can't
Yeah.
just say, I'm going to go and I'm going to run. I'm going to be a runner starting tomorrow, 10 miles a day for the next 3 months. You just can't do that because then you're going to fail. Then you're going to be disappointed.
'Cause your
And
body's
you're going to
gonna
go
say
down even
no.
deeper. yeah, right.
Yeah, so sometimes you need help with somebody to help you set those ingredients.
Yeah.
You know, like what are the ingredients to get there? Because let's suppose you want to lose 20 pounds in 3 months, but at month 1, you've only lost 2 pounds. Well, it's only 2 reasons it didn't go well. One is that if you're being honest with yourself, you didn't do all the things you said you were going to do. That's
Right.
the most likely thing, which is I said I was going to do this, and this, and I've gotten away from it. Or
Is it because people set those are too high?
no, it could be that you have set them all and you're following them to a T, and they're not strong enough. Like you didn't know this was what you thought was going to take. Maybe someone even helped you with it and said,
Yes.
if you do these 4 or 5 things well, you're going to lose 20 pounds in 3 months. Well, maybe your metabolism's different. And you have to then say, well, instead of doing a half hour in the gym 5 days a week, I'm going to have to do an hour because I'm doing everything I said I was going to do.
You're eating like you're supposed to.
You did everything you said.
You're doing this,
Eat,
but you're still not.
exercise, sleep, manage your stress. I'm like, I'm doing it all. Then you have to be what we call flexible and be willing to adapt. So then you change it up based on, am I following everything? If I am, you better change it or you won't get there. Or more likely, how big is my why? Can I get back to the ingredients I said I was going to do? Or maybe that goal's not as important as I thought it was. Maybe it was somebody else's goal for me.
That's interesting. Yeah.
See, and you mentioned too having somebody to help you do those things. And I know some people work better in a group. Some people don't. Some people work better having somebody holding them accountable. I'm one of those resistors. I hate when somebody checks on me. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, fine. When I was a little kid, I told Pat this before. When I was a little kid,
I'm
Mom
glad you're
would
finally telling this to a doctor. This is fantastic.
Watch, I'm going to turn.
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
Tear her up. Get after it.
The deep dive. Here we go.
Popcorn back here.
All right.
Here we go.
Only child. I know. I got issues. I'm already. Here we go. Oh, he's rubbing his chin and crossing his arms.
Get back on that couch. Here we go.
But yeah, only child, right? Okay, so Mom and I were home a lot by ourselves, and Dad was a truck driver, so he was gone quite a bit. And Mom would yell at me to go do something. She just yelled, "Jill, go blankety blank," whatever. Okay. And I was watching TV or whatever I was doing. I literally would count to 10 before I would get up to go do it. And if she yelled again before 10, I'd start over. And I just said, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Jill, I heard you. 1, 2. I did. She never knew that. She always wondered why I was sitting. No, she doesn't, because she doesn't have a podcast.
She doesn't have a podcast.
So, but I'd be sitting and I would just continue either reading or watching TV or whatever it was I was doing. But I would always, it was like, I will do it on my time. And I hear what you want me to do and I will go do it when I'm ready. But if somebody checks, it's kind of like when you talk about the diet programs, and there are so many that you had to go in and weigh in, or you had to check in with your group person, or you have to, whatever, there's a phone call or whatever. And I'm like, no.
And I'm the opposite.
She likes to be in charge.
Really? Yeah. That's awesome.
Whatever.
Yeah, on her time.
Whatever.
She's a cat. On her time. She'll let you pet her on her time.
I'm a cat.
Little control issue.
Little control issue, maybe. And that's the name of today's podcast. A little control issues. Control. I'm writing that down so I don't forget it. And I'm the opposite. I lost when I was with a program where I had to go in and not work out, but weigh in every week with this group of people and go to the gym all the time. I can't work out at home. I have to go to a gym in the group setting. I would go in and I lost 70 pounds in 3 months, maybe on a weight loss program, going in, weighing in all the time. And it wasn't like a shame thing. Like I didn't want people to say, you lost, you didn't lose the weight. It was just more keeping me on track, keeping myself accountable, because I felt like it helped me be more honest with myself, having other people around me doing the same thing.
It's an accountability plan.
Yeah.
Right? That's why Jack and I, we always talk about, I think last time, we always talk about having a battle buddy too. Mm-hmm. And that you have a battle group, but I mean,
Same
talk about
concept,
having
yeah.
that concept of, if you tell a battle buddy your goals and they help you stay on track, it's just one more person that you don't want to let down. It just kind of reminds you like, oh yeah, I would have easily sat on the couch tonight, but I got to be at the gym with 5 other people I promised to do my workout with.
Yeah.
So you don't let them down.
And I will say there have been moments, yes, when there is that person, but it depends on how they approach you. If it's a, what are you doing? Come on, man. It's
Like a disappointed.
right?
Yeah.
Instead of, hey, you ready to go? I'll come by and pick you up. Okay, come on, you're gonna do it. And just kind of like encouraging, as opposed to cracking the whip or shaking their finger at you.
That's why I think it's so much fun with Performance Mountain. We spend so much time on mindset, meaning just what you said. It's either I can versus I can't, or a positive mindset addressing you, or someone negative. Well, who do you want to hear from? You want to hear from the positive encourager, and yet
It's true.
not everybody's that way. But not everybody knows how to be.
Exactly, because they don't realize sometimes that that's what they're putting off, and they have good intentions.
Right.
But instead, it just shuts me down.
And we don't realize the power that we may have on helping or hurting somebody else's confidence.
That's true.
And so you always have to say, do you want Jill to be more confident in reaching this goal? Of course I do. Then when you say it this way to her, like, come on, what's going on? You know, that shuts her down. So what she needs to hear is, hey, let's go do this today. We got this.
Yeah.
But everybody nedes different things.
Right.
So that's where we spend a lot of time with teams trying to understand, like, how do you like to be talked to by your other teammates or co-teammates? And then when you're under stress, how do you like to be talked to? I mean, what do you need from somebody when you've just made a mistake or an error? Do you need a high five? Do you need a positive statement from them? Do you need nothing? Do you need a pat on the back? And everybody...
That's hard.
You know
to
what,
being
though?
a coach or being a manager or somebody that's in charge of a lot of people would be hard to keep that all and be able to manage. That's what's a very special person that can run a company or something, to be able to manage or coach to each personality.
The art of elite communication. That all is
It
basic
is.
communication. It really is.
Because that's we're seeing right now more and more that in the schools where they talk about meeting them where they're at. And that's what every teacher has to do.
Unbelievable.
Because it used to be the teacher did it this way and that's how everybody does it. And now more and more you hear them talking about meet them where they're at or finding out about what their background is so you can talk to each student in the, like you're talking, like you were saying, in the way that's going to be most effective for them.
And you can
That's
fight
weird
it,
because
right?
that's
is
something
weird.
I had never heard of before. Just like maybe the last couple 3 years, I'd heard some of our friends talking about it that are in public education, and then to hear you talking about that, it's like, oh, the bells just went off.
It's in
like,
everything.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
Business, school, sport, life, home life, relationships. Like you can get into your mindset that it's my way and I only do it this way and it works for most people. So either handle the way I do it or too bad. Or you can say, don't you want to get the best out of everybody? Well, if it doesn't work for so-and-so, then why don't you figure out another way? And I think the coaches that I'm around a lot that have been willing to evolve have really figured out that, you know, not that I want to knock on Bobby Knight, but the Bobby Knight method, the Indiana coach from the 80s, his method quit working because it worked for a while, maybe with certain kind of kids, but eventually it didn't work. And coaching out of fear has short-term results sometimes, but it doesn't have long-term results for most people. And so you can either get stubborn and say, it's always worked for me. I've won lots of games, or, you know, I've always gotten kids to follow my way. Or what happens when big macho football player shuts down when you get in his face and you say, if he can't cope with that, too bad. Or can you find out his why? Like, why does he shut down when you yell at him? If you can figure that out, I have lots of stories about both female and male athletes in which once the coach understood their why as to why they shut down, they're like, oh, wow, I had no idea.
That's interesting,
I had no
yeah.
idea that your father was that verbally abusive to you. And when I yelled that one time, all you could hear is your father. No wonder you didn't respond. Okay, so maybe you don't yell at that player. You can still hold them accountable, but if you keep choosing to yell,
It's in a different way.
then you're going to get the same
That's
outcome.
interesting.
Think back to when Tom Osborne, go back to the 90s in particular, when he caught so much heat because he was doing it a different way. And he was trying to do something that at that time was unconventional.
Right. Yeah, true. He wasn't a screamer. Like, why
Right?
isn't he getting emotional? He's not yelling. He's not doing anything.
He's not getting in their face. He's not, like clamping down on them. Instead, and everybody thought it was soft.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And it wasn't. It was brave.
Right.
I mean, seriously. And now people can probably accept that a little more, put some space in there. But at the time, everybody thought it was he's going soft on him.
Yeah.
Why is he letting him walk all over him like
And
that?
see, when Coach evolved,
That's crazy.
He wasn't
Yeah.
always that way. But see, one of the things we teach is what we call a positive psychology framework. And that's rooted in like hope and optimism and tomorrow's going to be a better day and gratitude. But Coach Osborne has this great phrase that I just love, and it's catch people doing something right and reinforce that behavior. So he'll say the best way to improve somebody is to catch somebody doing something right and reinforcing that. And that's positive psychology.
Yeah.
To me. That doesn't mean you don't hold them accountable to when they make an error and you have to figure that out, but spend more time catching them doing something right and they'll run through a wall for you.
Yeah.
It's true.
That is
Hey,
very
everybody
true.
hates a gotcha, when it's something wrong. And it blows them away when it's something good.
And when somebody
Like-
does stop you and say,
Like the police
This-
officer that stops you for good driving.
right, or yeah, exactly.
What the-
But it stays with you, and it stays with you. And anybody that stops you and says, "Hey, what you just did is awesome. I love that," and that there's no meaning, but other than that, they walk away and that was it. It stays with you all day. It stays with you obviously for a long time.
Yeah, and the elite performers in this world and elite teams, they have a ratio of somewhere between 3-1 and 5-1 of positive comments to criticism, or what you might call praise to criticism, or just positive self-talk to negative self-talk in your own. So the average human being has about 3 times as many more negative thoughts than positive, believe it or not. So we're wired for negativity, but High performers flip the script.
Yeah.
3-to-1 positive to negative. And then if you're on a high performing
Wow.
team or business and you study them, same thing. The ones that have a praise to criticism ratio of 3 to 5-to-1, that means it's not all bury your head in the sand and Pollyanna.
Right.
It is sometimes there's tough conversations in business or sport, but
Those are people though those are supposedly the stronger people, because then you think about the regular person, you hear the number 10-to-1. It takes 10 positives to negate that one negative, and for a lot of people that's not even enough. And it may come from somebody that's inconsequential, but to come from somebody that you respect is huge. But even when you say that, even the elite mindset there's a ratio. It's not.
and they
you can't
learn
just-
it and they
yeah.
can train it. We have
Wow.
to train people at the highest level to learn how to have the proper ratio, because most of us are wired the opposite way. That's just how we've evolved. And some people are good naturally. I don't like anything in this world, but it's trainable. And if you really study yourself or have people observe you, you're like, wow, I had no idea that I had said that many negative things. It might even be little things like, it's cold out, I'm tired.
Right. Just the little tiny things
All
build
the
up.
things that we say over and over versus, and so a lot of times I'll ask a coach, I said, when's the last time you blew the whistle to tell the team they did something well at practice? Because they're used to conditioning. The whistle
Wow.
blown, oh boy.
What did we do?
What did we do wrong? But
Yeah.
do you catch them doing things right? And so, as coaches have
Yeah.
learned,
Because that's when they go, whew,
Yeah.
stand up a little taller.
do, but they also remember that reinforces what they did well. And you're like, great, coach recognized when we went flying for the ball the last minute.
Yeah.
Maybe we're going to be relentless and flying around for the next minute because maybe we like praise from our coach.
Right.
Most people do.
And
Wow.
also kind of taking that to the family level too, and doing that with your kids instead of have family meeting in the living room right now. And
Y'all screwed up.
It's not a dress down. It's just wanted to say, you guys, we had a fun weekend. You did this really well. I loved that. What a great weekend. That was
Or
it.
if you do have something challenging, you started off by trying to think of, unless really you don't that particular day, to say, hey,
You could be really, really fuming, but
well, I mean,
yeah.
a couple things that, or at least, we teach then people how to manage their arousal control levels so that if we are fuming, do we have a way to kind of get our mind right and our body right and physically, mentally, and emotionally? So when we have that conversation with our teenager, that it doesn't go 10 times worse. And then we walk away going,
So what do you do?
Yeah.
Like you have a teenager and you don't want that conversation to go sideways, right? So and you're fuming, and it's something's got to be addressed like ASAP. You're fuming. Do you still try to lead with something positive? I mean, how do you address that so it doesn't
Go
go
somewhere and
sideways?
count to 10. I'm kidding.
well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, nothing has to be addressed immediately, like virtually most things in
Right.
this world. So if we
good
talk
point.
about managing the space, and so that's our core philosophy, right? So Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist. He actually was a psychiatrist. Then he was put in the concentration camps. Everyone was killed in his family but him. Then he wrote a great book called Man's Search for Meaning. But he talks about the space. And there's a space between stimulus, whatever the event is,
Okay.
teenager doing something, a stimulus and response, right? You have the power to choose your response. And in that power lies your growth and freedom. So here it is. You have a stimulus, and then how we respond to those in this world have everything to do how healthy we are. So it could
Right.
be any trigger. So before we get to your kid, it could just be what happens in traffic for you. Do you lose your mind in traffic when someone cuts you off or they're going too slow, right? So we have a stimulus hit us.
I talk a lot.
Yeah.
And then how do we respond? No, do we lose our mind and
Right.
have all kinds
Right.
of bad chemicals go through us,
Yes.
and we won't even remember what we're mad about 10 minutes later?
Right,
Or do
right.
we take a deep breath, say, it's just not that big a deal, turn up the music, get on the phone, and it's not worth it, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter what the trigger
Yeah.
is. So in an event where you're really highly emotional, I would say the same thing. You got to self-talk it, because most of the things in this world that we end up regretting, that we look back on and go, I wish I would have handled that better. It has to do with how we managed the response. So if something happened and we lose our mind, we get in an argument with somebody, or we say something very hurtful back to somebody, or we just when our teenager probably needs to hear something calming, we're in their face screaming at them. They get mad, you get mad, and you're like, you walk away, and as you think about it, you're like, I could have handled that better.
True.
Or I said things that really broke things
It's
apart. So then that's when you have to do the mental skills we teach. So first we got to self-talk it. Like, all right, do I need to talk to him right now or her? Like, I have to literally say, I'm wound up right now. Like, this might not be the best time to try to talk to my
That's
14-year-old daughter.
Sometimes that's hard for people to identify that too.
Because
and
our
say,
fight or flight is kicked
yeah,
off already.
it's just like, woof, and to say, oh, whoa, I am hot. Let's
Yes.
Yes.
And it probably is hard. That is like, give them credit when they can do that.
It's very hard, but you can train it. You can train your self-talk. You can train your nervous system, and you can learn to take what we call
Xanax?
tactical breaths. Yes, Xanax.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yes.
Okay.
That's 10 to 15 minutes
Okay.
before you. Yeah.
Not those little suckers you can get from Mexico. No. That's about 15 seconds. I don't know, whatever.
That
Fair
may
enough.
be true.
Okay, I don't know. I'm
Yes.
just kidding. I have no
We
clue.
never got to the pharmaceuticals because Performance Mountain does not introduce pharmaceuticals.
Asterisk.
Right.
Right.
Now, they
Yeah.
can be
Right.
the number one thing
Right.
you choose to use.
No,
right?
I don't. I would be asleep at
Right?
6:15.
Well, not one lick. Yeah.
Done.
That's a 3-lick
Right.
argument.
That is totally. That's a. Yeah.
What
eat
were
the
we
stick
talking
and
about?
everything.
Right. So anyway, you can
Yeah.
you can learn to tactically breathe and take some deep breaths and calm your nervous system down so you can actually think. You can choose to say, you know what, I'm going to walk away for 5 or 10 minutes and I'm going to just think about how I'm going to handle this situation. It gives you a chance. You can even write it down sometimes or just take a nice meditation walk and say, you know what, I'm going to live to play another day. We still need to address this, but I'm not in a mental space to be able to address this to get what I want to accomplish anyway. All it's going to do is,
Right.
when I'm like this, if
To
I'm
make it
honest with
worse.
myself, most times I make it
Yeah,
worse.
true.
And I'm like, dang it, why didn't I handle that better? And
Yeah.
but they said something to piss me off, and then I lost my mind, and then
Yeah.
it circles
Got
the drain
worse.
pretty quickly. So you can train yourself, and that's a whole nother item. But if you train, develop a mindfulness practice or a meditation practice, there is real science to why the fight or flight doesn't kick off the same for a similar trigger, and why you can calm down so that you can handle stress better.
Hi, proud supporter, Kugler Vision.
In 2020, the year of clear vision, make it the best year yet with the modern LASIK from Kugler Vision. We've both experienced the dramatic change it can make in your life having a procedure done to correct your vision. And I couldn't be happier. I wish I would have done it a long time before I did, but I'm certainly glad I got it done when I did. February is going to be a huge month. You could be in the running for an Omaha night out. In the month of February, you need to schedule your consultation and attend it. You go in, and then you're automatically in the running for the Omaha night out, which is dinner for 2 at Chop House in the Old Market.
It'd be nice to be able to see the menu.
Plus, go see the Lumineers at CHI Health Center. It's on March 14th is the show. They'll be announcing the winner on March 2nd on their social media and give you plenty of time to claim your prize. But do yourself a favor. Go ahead and make that consultation appointment on their website at kuglervision.com.
It is a procedure still, right?
Yeah.
And the up to 7 potential options of a procedure. So you just don't want to go to anybody to get this done. You got to go to people that you trust, that other people have trusted, that we trust. And they have a ton of reviews from very satisfied customers,
the
best of
world.
Omaha, around the world, around the country. Exactly. People come
Right.
back to Omaha just to go to Kugler Vision. So they're trusted.
There's a reason for that. And so, you want to make sure it's your eyesight.
And tell them you heard it on the Pat and JT podcast.
That's a whole nother avenue, but
Yeah.
we're big into training mindfulness for CEOs and business people and everyday family men. And, of course, our athletes and coaches. Most of our coaches have developed some form of mindfulness practice to actually learn how to calm the nervous system down for an equal trigger.
And it's helped them, I'm sure, in every aspect of their life, not just coaching, but also at home, at church, at wherever.
Everywhere.
The
And that's
ripple
our
effect
that's our
is
why.
huge.
That's
Yeah.
always been our why,
Yeah.
which is, of course, we might do it through the lens of sport sometimes or business, but is, my why with the young athletes too is, can they grow into empowered young women or men who have the self-confidence to go out in this world and tackle it and be treated the way they want to be. So the skills that you teach them, how to stay more composed and communicate and focus,
Yeah.
they might help in their sport. It's also helping them as a student athlete.
You're
But then
right,
in
though.
life, now they know how to handle stress better when the inevitable problem happens with a coworker or their boss or their spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend or all the human dynamics that happen. just
Affecting
be-
all these families,
Well,
all these kids, all their future families.
everybody.
All
Yeah,
the
that's
people that
awesome.
we've talked to, that we've met, that especially some of the former Huskers that talk about dealing with Tom and the level of respect, and not just Tom, but the entire staff, and the things that they learned in their coping skills that they learned moving forward, how it really did affect them. And you think about even your bosses. I can think of a handful, like less than a handful, of the bosses who never lost their mind, who were always right there to tell you you did a great job, and thank you. I can think of less than a handful, but my
Yeah, there
God,
aren't many.
I'll never forget them.
And why?
Huge.
Why is that, right? If you think about it, because the number one thing that we try to teach, that I try to teach is, is that if we want to lead people, we have to model the behaviors that we want them to have. So what does it teach you, right? So if you have a coach or a boss that can stay composed and be respectful, you're more likely to go out in this world for the future and do the same. But also you may have people that you're leading in that same organization. So it might be, a CEO to the, sales manager. You might be a person who's a sales manager. Your CEO treats you right. You now know how to treat all the people you lead by staying calm, composed, respectful, catching people doing things right. So we're just so big on having people learn how to model the behaviors that you want to have. Because a lot of times they'll say, well, I want my team, I tell the Coach Cook story, which is he wanted his team to play fearless at the end of a game. And so ultimately, without going into it all right now, unless we get into it, which is, all right, what's your role? What's your what's your contribution to the problem of your team playing with fear? Well, that's a hard question for a leader to answer.
Right.
They can answer all the things that their team, why they think their team is playing with fear. But if you put it back on and say, what do you think your contribution is? It was a very tough question to answer. And so in the book that I'm about to launch here later this year, I have a whole chapter on how Coach Cook evolved as a coach.
I saw a quote of his about that he used to coach from fear.
No, he used to say, I wish I had learned to coach out of love instead of anger earlier in my career.
That's what it was.
And I talk about it in my book because that's the number one thing for me anyway, a validation that made a difference in somebody was that his recognition, as great of a coach as he already had been, and highly successful, that he realized that things really got better when he learned to coach out of love. That was not his framework.
Because that's usually you look at the coach. You don't think when you think coaches, you don't think love. I mean, you think of.
Although they do.
They do love, and they look up to him potentially as father figures. But the first thing you think of isn't he's coaching me out of love. It's out of not anger, but it's you got to do it my way. You got to you don't want to disappoint him. Exactly. It's not out of love. Right.
But love is rooted in relationships. So as long as you build relationships with those players outside the court, you can still be hard on them. It's not like it's the same kind of love you might have with a spouse, but it can be the way you respect them. It can be the way you get to know them as a person. Hold them accountable as part of
your
love.
Expectations,
and being consistent with them. But if you show them that you love them and care about them, they'll do anything for you. And then you can coach them hard too.
Yeah.
And so that's, for the person who's thinking they just got to do more drills, or like get on them, that does not work particularly well with today's kids. I'm not sure it worked great before, but
that was just the model. That was the way it was done.
That's the way you did it. Yeah.
I don't think it worked well. I think the people who got evolved and figured that out started winning sooner than others, or at least whatever their team was capable of. It doesn't always result in championships. It results in your team, competing or maxing out at the highest level.
And I think that has a lot to do with, and I go back to Coach Osborne, just because that's such a big shadow over the state as far as sports fans, is I think that's a reason why those years still resonate with people to this day. We didn't have that fiery, yelling at people, cussing at people, angry and winning. We had a good, quiet, calm. It was like we want more of that. We want more of that.
And he was a fierce competitor.
Didn't want to lose.
He didn't.
Right.
That didn't take the competitor away from him, but he had his processes that worked, and he was consistent about it.
And he learned how to get better at it.
Yes, and he built better relationships with the players over time.
Yeah.
So he did a lot himself, because if you don't get to know your players and build relationships, they won't trust you.
Right. And I think that falls over into business too, because there are companies that still benefit from the echoes of the past that people remember, that are like, oh man, I'd love to work for that company. But it's nothing like it used to be. But people just have that glorified memory of how wonderful that place was. And I have a couple of those places in the back of my head, trust me, that you're like, man, it was just, you just hate to think that it's not that way anymore. And you keep wanting to go back to it.
Yeah.
And it's not there.
Because you need to jealously guard your culture.
Yeah.
It can shift. And you can let it slip without recognizing it sometimes. Like in the business world, like, maybe profits are flat for a couple of years, but you blame it one year on the coronavirus and one year on, the tariffs, or and some of that may be true, but things can start to slip for a little bit, and you can make excuses for why it is. And so you have to be so aware, because culture can drift on you when you lose your focus from it. And before you know it, you go from the great team culture or the great business culture to, I don't know why you still talk about it that way, because it's not that way anymore. And in fact, people are leaving, and then, profits go down or losses mount, because without a great culture that's rooted in relationships and love and trust, it will fall apart.
See, now you get me thinking too about families. When the matriarch or patriarch of the family passes away, and all of a sudden the family functions don't happen anymore.
They're like saying that's the only person that's holding our family together. That's
right.
The culture of your family is based on this one person.
They all get together for grandma.
Yeah,
Grandma
but as soon as grandma's gone, it's over.
No more Christmas.
That's what's so hard about families, is it's hard sometimes to groom another person to do that. In business and in sport, if you're mindful about it, because there are so many possibilities, you can groom people through your modeling of behavior to have them ready to take over, or to step up if something happens to you. Like Jack says, they have to train people. It's a Navy SEAL, Jack Riggins. He says, because our number one thing is we could take a bullet tomorrow, and our team still has a mission, and our team's only as good as the person that I've taught. So we have to teach them to lead, even though they're not leading right now. That's what I love about the SEALs, but you can do that in sport and business.
That is
and it's same for business, same for family.
And I've always said this, and I've kind of in a joking way, but I'm really not in a joking way, is that I'm not a good teacher. I feel like I'm a good dad. I'm a good parent. I feel like I do a lot of things. I model good behavior, but I'm not a good teacher.
That is a good teacher.
And
modeling behavior.
But I've noticed this, and again, like I say this in joking, I tell stories, haha, it's funny, but honestly, I don't. Like there are times that I assumed my kids picked up on things they didn't pick up on, but I didn't show my son how to scrape the windshield of his car, and he's 17.
Best story.
So
that
it's
was
like
the best story.
And they came in one day. There was frost on the window. My daughter threw her bag. We can't go to school. We can't go to school. And Bennett comes in, slams her. That's it. Can't go. I felt shame, because I had never taught my son to physically grab the scraper, but I've done it a million times.
That was the thing. His son had just started driving.
And I thought, well, I've done it a million times in front of him. I just don't feel like I'm the best teacher of things. Like if I had an intern,
why don't you
he or
grab
she
that,
would be terrible.
Like you should have said, grab that scraper and get after the windows, Bennett, right?
Do you take care of my son, Bennett? What? He's 21 now, but
very close.
Okay, same time period. What do you do when there's ice on the windshield?
So then I don't feel quite.
Don't you think we were better problem solvers back then?
Yes.
I don't remember my dad or mom ever showing me how to scrape the windshield, but I'm pretty sure that when it got icy, I figured out what to do.
I'm pretty sure when it got icy, Dad handed me the scraper and said, "Get out and go scrape."
Pretty sure we figured out what to do.
He sat in the car with the heat on.
Yeah, that's funny, because I've talked about this, I think, with Scotty, and I know my wife for sure, that back when we were younger, every generation says this, right? We were better problem solvers. We could figure it out. At least I thought, or maybe our parents were better teachers. We couldn't Google.
There was no Google.
Right. But think about what you were saying too. So everyone learns differently. Mm-hmm. So maybe some people will do it just by the word of instruction. Like you just say, hey, go out here and scrape. Somebody else may be only a visual learner, and they actually need to see you do it visually, and they'll never ask again. So, again, it may just be as simple as that, or maybe
just asking them.
Or maybe you've never once actually showed them, just kind of assume that, I used to figure it out.
Yeah,
but,
probably. And that's why that's why teachers, I think, are the... I can't go to school. That's it. The drama. That's it. I got a test and we can't go to school. It was tragic. It was just tragic. You learn. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. You learn real quick to scrape when I've gone scraped with a quarter and looked through it before, then I realized it's stupid. You scrape.
Or with CD packets, the CD cases that you would use, or your credit cards, or whatever you could find to scrape with, because you were never prepared as a 16-year-old driver. No. There was no scraper in the car.
It takes a special person to become somebody that I think teachers have to be brilliant at that, because I have just 2 kids and they both learn completely different, but I still don't get that yet. I'm not good at it. I'm just not good at seeing that. And I think just the communication and asking them, and when you're in a classroom or just talking to the kids, would help.
Yeah.
Just need to talk.
Right? That's a big part of it. And you're about ready to turn them loose on the world too.
Oh yeah.
Not too far away.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Was that hard for you? Is Bennett your oldest or youngest? Or
My oldest. He's 21.
You
so
actually
he's
have a
oldest.
Bennett?
I do have a
Oh,
Bennett.
you do have
I
a
wasn't
Bennett?
joking.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh, you really have a Bennett?
He really
I've
has
been
a
taking
Bennett.
care of my
That's
Bennett.
crazy. Yeah.
Same story.
Yep. All the Bennetts
he's
are the same.
and he's the doctor. See, it
I
can happen to
have
anybody.
no idea how much better that makes me feel.
I feel better too.
Oh, good. Well, you shouldn't, but I should feel better because you're a doctor. I feel so much better.
Oh, I feel a lot better.
Okay.
It's not you. It's okay. It's
Somebody
not-
has to help the helper.
Can I ask you a question about your? Did Bennett have a hard time sometimes with showering and wearing clean clothes, like when he was 16, 17?
Similar type of
Okay.
things, yes.
Some kids are like
16 to
real
18-year-olds, it's
fastidious,
just-
right? Some kids are not. Some kids are like really fastidious. So they clean everything, and it's just
what-
like got
real what?
But then, never mind.
What is
Big word.
Fine, seriously,
Yeah.
it's like this
But
is
then
a
other
podcast.
kids.
What does that mean?
Then other kids are. Whatever.
Sometimes you think
Yeah.
it's done, and then you open their closet, and there's a month worth of clothes
Right.
piled up. And they said their room was clean, just like you asked them.
that's
and
where
then
that
you
sweatshirt
find
is. Yes.
piles of stuff that they hid in the shower.
Oh, God.
or something.
I
Yeah.
got to tell you this. This happened. I went home to get a lunch a little bit ago.
Yes.
And I should have. I'll take a picture. I'll Beth take a picture when she
Okay.
gets home. I was talking to her on the way home. She goes, "Can you just go in your son's room?" I said, "Okay." She goes, "Just go in your son's room and show me
do
what you
it.
see." And I said, I said, "Yeah, I see." I said he attempted to make his bed. She goes, "Well, since I fell asleep at 8:15 last night." She goes, I threw his fitted sheet in him. I was like, "Hey, bud, put your fitted sheet on before you go to bed." He said, "No problem." It's on. Upside down, like
It's inside out.
and sideways. So it's stretched. And he said it doesn't fit. It must have shrunk. It's literally sideways.
It's too wide and it's too short.
Yes. upside down and the other way.
It's too wide and too short. This can't be my
This
sheet.
is it. Can't go to school. Can't go to bed. Can't go to bed. Oh my. So your son would do some things like that, like it.
Oh,
Okay,
I
good.
don't even know what to tell you.
God, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
It's not just you.
No.
You're good.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. We've covered a lot of territory here, man. That's that right there. I mean, I think for a lot of people just hearing this is that it is part of being open and being vulnerable because everybody suffers from the same things and making goals and following through. You're not failing, but you set yourself up for failure more likely.
Or success.
There you go.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not that hard to actually set yourself up for success. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's not that hard to set yourself up for success on anything, whether it's goal setting or self-talk or managing your nervous system.
Self-talk is the big one. It really is a big one because it's easier. It's like you lower the bar so you don't surprise yourself when it doesn't go wrong or it doesn't go right. It's like going to lose weight, and then when it doesn't happen, it's like, okay, well, I have a terrible time losing
Yeah.
weight. It's impossible to lose. You say things like that. I lose weight so slow. I can't. My metabolism must be stopped.
Yeah.
Whatever. And you have these excuses all ready to go when it doesn't happen, and totally get it. Because my roller coaster was so funny. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she's about the same age, and she says in her life, her roller coaster, she's been overweight 3 times in her life. That where she went up to here, and then she went down to here, and then she went up to here, and she says the majority of my life I've been the right weight. And I said, you know what? Honestly, I have too. I said, but when it's bad, it sticks for a while.
Yeah, right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then it's like the switch flips, which was what happened the last time. And the switch flips, and it's like I'm not even really trying. It just happens, and everything goes back to where it's supposed to be. Then something happens that throws you off your tracks. And like we talked about, getting derailed, even for a day. And it can happen for months or years, actually, before you get everything back right and get it back in line.
Yes, I guess what I'm hoping people will hear is that you can get it back. There's actually fairly simple ways to do it, and it's trainable. It doesn't mean that the outcome goal is going to be any easier, because it's hard for a lot of human beings to lose weight or to save the right amount of money or to...
That's another one, too.
I mean, or to be in shape physically or whatever it might be, I mean, those aren't easy things to do in the human dynamic world.
They're not all vices.
They're not. They're not even vices. They're just
Yeah.
difficult things to do in this world because it's a hard world sometimes. But that doesn't mean that there can't be some strategies that help get you back on track a little sooner, meaning like we're all going to derail. I don't care who you are. I don't care how smart you are, how much money you have, the family support. It doesn't matter. Life hits. We all get derailed. The question is, does it take a year to get back on or a month? And if we have strategies that we know we can get back, it might not take as long. Or do we feel like we have no confidence to do it because we don't even know how to do it right now?
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh, wow, I only have to do this, this, and this, and this, and it can help me get back on track quicker, well, it gives you a little more hope that, I'm a big hope guy. Like the minute you lose hope on anything, that's when
hard to get back.
That's when trouble hits human beings, when they lose hope, whatever the endeavor is. So to keep people in a hopeful way, to actually believe tomorrow could be a better day, that's the responsibility ultimately of the individual. But there's lots of people in this world that can help people feel that they have more hope. And I don't care who it is. It could be a mentor, it could be clergy, it could be a friend, it could be a parent, it could be a teacher, a coach. There's so many people in this world that can help others become what I call more gritty or kind of have more tenacity. But it has to come a bit internal, but if we don't know how to do it ourselves, we have to have people in our world that can help us with it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, where would you suggest somebody start if they know they need to get some things lined in order? You mentioned you have a book coming out later this year. Do you have other books too?
Nope. This is going to be my very first book.
Seriously? Wow.
It's pretty impressive. That's
No
pretty awesome.
kidding.
That's actually the hope. Honestly, the reason I wrote the book. I'm going to call it Max Out When It Matters the Most. The 16 powers to help you in business, sport, and life. Because each chapter is a different power, like the power of self-talk.
Right.
The power of
I can't wait
vulnerability.
to see this book.
Oh man, me too.
I'm writing it partly because I just wanted the challenge of writing it, but because I've been so blessed to be around some of the best coaches and leaders and teams and businesses in the world over my career. I've just been lucky that way. I just want to be able to share for people who may not have access to a mindset coach. Maybe they can't afford one. Maybe they don't even have access to one. But that they want to either learn for themselves, how to improve their mindset, so that they can be more successful in whatever they're trying to do, or oftentimes, especially the coaches that I attract, a lot of the high school coaches and club coaches who they don't necessarily have the funds in their their club or their high school to be able to hire a mindset coach or a high performance coach, or they may not have the money to go to a conference, or there may not even be a conference. So that if they could read my book through my lens of experience, talking about a lot of the experts I've been around, all the great coaches and teams, maybe they can learn something about how do I train mindset in myself. So if somebody's interested in self-talk and they're like, I am a negative self-talker and I know it hurts my confidence and I don't feel good when I tell myself bad things about myself, they could go to the chapter on power of self-talk and not only learn about it, learn that they're normal. That's the first thing. It's nice to know
you're not
that you're
abnormal, you're not weird.
And then, more importantly, what do you do about it? How do I change my self-talk if I don't have access to a one-on-one coach that teaches it to me?
Yeah.
Like I can learn it right from that chapter. Like, how do I change it? And so that's ultimately.
You gotta hurry up and write this thing. Like, is it already written?
It's already written.
Right? Let's get this out now. Let's not wait till the end of the year. Let's do it now.
It's being honed and fine-tuned.
Okay, let's get our hone and
I'm not a writer,
down.
But I am proud of it.
Is there a
awesome.
timeline that you're looking at right now?
I'm hoping it'll be by sometime at the end of the summer. I just don't know how long it's going to take for the whole. It's done, and it's just requiring.
I can't wait.
Finalizing everything.
When you were just talking about the blessings in your life, and when you first started out, what was your career path? Did you start out as a mindset coach?
No, it's a completely different career path because I went to medical school and my dream was to be a surgeon or an ER doc. And as I evolved through the whole thing, I realized those weren't going to be for me for different reasons. But I was really attracted to the mental end of things, but also attracted to people with Alzheimer's disease because of some family history. But I ended up specializing after I graduated from medical school in psychiatry. And so I had a pretty traditional psychiatric practice. I mean, seeing outpatients, working in the hospital, but back then in the 90s, date myself here a little bit, the insurance companies turned us into pill pushers. They just wanted us to diagnose, and if they needed a pill, a Xanax, I'm not knocking the pills. I believe they're really important.
There's a place.
Oh, there's a huge place for a lot
Definitely.
of people, but they wanted us to prescribe the pills and all the good hard work of, learning about yourself and coping skills and becoming a better mindset. They wanted the therapists and counselors to do that. I'm like, didn't think that was the role of the psychiatrist, is to be a pill pusher. And so as it evolved through two incidents, one, I got the hospital in North Dakota I was working at, bought out the other one, and I had to take over the addiction unit. That was where I really got to see some really high performers, doctors, teachers, CEOs. Their life had fallen apart because of alcohol or something else, but I learned they had an incredible mindset. If you could teach them how to
Those are the
cope.
people that people don't expect to hear.
But that's the vast majority of people that are addicts are just normal, everyday people.
Right.
I mean,
They just don't have
they
the
think-
tools to build themselves back to get back on track.
And those people sound like they come with them
because
they're the high
Yeah,
achievers.
right.
No, and then when they got better, but sometimes it was rooted in when stress hit, then they got negative self-talk. They didn't know how to cope. They couldn't manage their space, and they turned to a substance. And then
Right.
maybe they were wired for an addiction. Maybe their whole family was addicts, and they couldn't cope with drinking. Maybe their friends could. But once I was able to see how much they improved by helping their mindset, that got me interested. And then when 9/11 hit up in Minot, North Dakota, where I lived, that was a very important base. They had the B-52 bombers and they had the underground nuclear warheads. And it was a very stressful time in America. And all those psychiatrists and mental health people got deployed. And I'd built up some goodwill from helping the dependents of people in the military during my career. And they said to me, we need some help. And they said, here's the good news. You're going to really be able to help some people in an important time. We need our pilots are under stress, our military officers, the high-ranking ones who are in control of the button.
Wow.
They said, here's the bad news. You can't use any pills. So here we go.
So there it is. That's what
Mr.
yeah.
Hotshot going.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. What do you mean I can't use pills?
Right. That's what you've been making me do for so long.
Right, but like, that was my opportunity.
Yes, your
Think that you
opportunity.
couldn't. I mean,
exactly.
somebody flying airplanes like that or making those decisions
can't
can't be
have it.
medicated.
No, bet
Can't
they
be
can't.
medicated.
That is,
So-
I could never thought
So
about that.
imagine if you're, maybe if you're wired for anxiety, or maybe you're anxious because the buildings just got blown down and you don't know what's happening next. It's a very uncertain time in America, and there's a lot of anxiety and stress, and they needed help with non-medication strategies, and that's where it really evolved. And then when I moved to, that's when I
And
really
thank God you
evolved.
had your history that you had and
Yes,
your
right.
mindset about how to handle these things.
That's
That was
incredible.
So my career path changed. I still do a lot of regular psychiatric stuff for some contracts that I do, but I evolved once I moved back to Nebraska and started working with athletes and coaches. That like this is really my place, and then it didn't just be that. Then how do you help CEOs or anybody who has problems? But I like to work with high performers. That's my niche.
Yeah.
And I like to work because of a CEO who's running a company. Because I'm helping one right now with a company who just has trouble. He had trouble in like board meetings ruining trust by just saying the wrong thing. He'd
Right.
get impatient. He might say one thing that would ruin trust in a person and humiliate him or something like that. And it was very hard to stay focused and calm, and teaching them how to stay calm, how to stay focused, and how to stay present and to manage their space. It's completely changed his life. I'm not saying I did it. He did all the work,
No,
but
but
it's all the same skills.
It's so fun because we kind of touched on this a few episodes ago talking about homeopathic medicines.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm a huge believer in that. My dad as well, and he have horses, right? And he didn't like giving his horses drugs. Had race horses, and
did I.
so interesting. So he, seriously, and so he would prefer to use homeopathic methods, but it takes longer, and it's a lot more work. And so for a lot of people, the shortcut of the drugs makes it seem it's just easier, and it's just easier. It's like just give them a shot. It's just easier instead of going with the homeopathic. But you're actually, that's what you do, is more of a homeopathic type medicine because
It's not medicine based. At this
Right.
point, I could argue that in that role, and I do argue in that role, that I'm not playing the role of a psychiatrist. I'm not diagnosing anything. I'm not keeping a chart on them. I'm not treating a mental illness. They may have something, and I may recognize something and say, I think you may need to get that evaluated. But when I play that role, I don't play both roles. So I'm purely what I would call an elite mindset coach, whatever you want to call it, helping
like
with
it.
mindset. But it's a harder way, but it's a more permanent way.
exactly.
Because I'm not knocking the Xanax either. If you have a fear of flying,
Exactly.
or you have something going on or whatever's going on, and you need something in that moment, and you don't have the skills yet, or maybe it's a really bad situation and you're just a very traumatic situation, that might be the only thing that works right now.
Exactly. There are situations that do call for it.
That doesn't change the brain permanently to how you cope and think through things, so that you develop the mindset more times than not that's going to lead to success. Otherwise, you've temporarily solved the problem, and that's okay too. Sometimes that's what it has to
Kind
be.
of kick the can down the road just a little
Sometimes
bit.
you never actually stop kicking the can down the
That's
road.
when it gets bad. That's true. Because you eventually need to either confront it or you're just going to be a slave to
I just think a lot of people don't believe you can change that way.
Right.
But you can.
Right.
It's really powerful how you can change your brain.
Your mind is so powerful.
With the right mental skills and mindset training. You can change it in a very powerful way, and it will change your whole life. And like you said, it changes maybe the next generation, because if you handle stress in a certain way at home, no matter what the kids say, like this is a really interesting stat though, but if you've been physically abused at home by a parent, almost every one of those kids will say, when I grow up, I will never hit my kid. I mean, I'll never do what my parent did, but about 90% of them go on to hit their kids. It's not because they ever planned on it, but under stress in particular, that's when it happens. When you're stressed, you go back a lot of times to what you learned, particularly if you hadn't had anyone work through it. Like you acknowledge that you didn't want to hit someone, but you never maybe worked on your own mindset. Like, how am I going to cope when things really fall apart? So that if things don't fall apart, you might not hit your kids, but if things really go bad, you may go back to exactly what you never said you would do.
Right.
And that's what human beings do a lot.
Yeah.
And so that's what's so interesting about, like you said, the next generation. It doesn't just help, yourself, which is cool, but if you can pass on the way to cope and handle tough situations and how to treat people, your kids and maybe the other people that you involved in, if you're a teacher or a coach or whatever, you lead people, they may learn it from you. And maybe that's the first time they've ever learned it from somebody.
Yeah.
They didn't have parents that taught it to them, right? But maybe a teacher taught them or another mentor.
And that's true too.
It changes their life forever, and then it changes the next generation. And somebody has to break the cycle. That's what Coach Osborne did for a lot of people, by the way. He helped a lot of people break the cycle, generations of not going to college or maybe difficult family circumstances or how to communicate.
I can't imagine if you're the first one to go to college in your family and then add the stress of the scholarship and then the physical athletic performance. So they have all that weighing on them, and their family's counting on them to get that degree because they're in college.
Right.
The team's counting on them to be athletic and to be a performer, and then the scholarship, they've got to keep their grades up.
Well, then you got the fans.
And then you got fans.
Millions of fans all over the world.
So much pressure.
Can't believe
to
it.
Anybody,
I can't imagine.
Even someone who has a good family network, it's a lot of pressure. But then that's why I'm always, like you are, enamored by Coach Osborne in that sense and other coaches. But his ability to have people later on in life want him to be their mentor. He's a mentor of mine, and he was a mentor for mine for 20 years, and I didn't know him. I always said I wanted Warren Buffett or Tom Osborne to meet them and work with them. I never believed I would work with either one. And I worked with Coach Osborne for years at Nebraska, and now he's our senior leadership and performance advisor for Performance Mountain.
Which is so cool.
And I talk to him a lot, but he's a mentor of mine. But guess what? There's like 1,000 other people in this world that truly believe he's a mentor. And because he is.
And they all have a personal connection with him.
Yes, and it doesn't even mean that they spent years.
Right.
Maybe they haven't even talked to him in 10 years. But the way he interacted with them, whatever the message, that lesson they taught, he's a mentor. He was a mentor of mine, just the way he handled things graciously all those years when he didn't win it all.
From afar.
And the books he wrote.
Yeah.
I read his books, and they were more than winning. And, beyond the game, like every one of his books had nothing really to do with winning. Now, the product of his processes, you hope the outcome for him, he wanted to win, but everything he taught was about life. And so, and he's not I've had wonderful coaches. Coach Kirsten Bernthal Booth, who's going to be on my podcast,
Which we got to talk about your podcast
today,
coming up. It's very exciting. Yeah.
She's one of she is my favorite human being coach that I know because of a ton of reasons, but yes, I can't wait.
When is your podcast is out? When this podcast, ours right now, is out, your podcast will be released. Is that right? Or is that on Scott? We just have to figure that out.
Yeah, so it's going to be released tomorrow. It's going to be called Max Out Mindset.
Both of these will be out tomorrow.
The same reason that I wrote the book.
Yeah.
My goal was to educate people through my lens and experiences, the things that I've learned from working with the best, to teach them these strategies that we're talking about, but also to have experts come on who've been great in their own craft.
Yes.
Certainly through the lens of coaches oftentimes, because I work with them, but it won't just be coaches. It'll be business people and regular human beings who've been very successful with their mindset. But I'm going to have them on too. And so I'm really excited about that, because ultimately I want people to be able to learn about how do you max out your mindset as part of your overall high performance strategy, and that's in any endeavor.
That's
as
awesome.
A parent, as a teacher,
Exactly.
as a boss.
You don't have to be a hugely successful athlete or a hugely successful CEO, because I can think of a lot of friends of ours, and we talk of them.
Anybody.
Because the minute they walk in the room, it everybody feels better, and you feel that connection with them right away, and they are, the positivity and the belief in
And the opposite too, where people walk in and the energy is just gone.
the energy vampires.
Right. I mean, because you're right. I mean, you talking about the elite mindset and some of the people that you've worked with, but when you're talking and saying specific examples, I'm using that in my life, how I'm going to do it, and I'm nowhere near any of that. So it's me, how I'm going to deal with my kids or my parents or my wife or, whatever, just friendships. And I mean, anybody can use these skills. Anyone, any kids especially. I can't wait to read your book, listen to your podcast, and start implementing some of these things when my kids are still young enough to hopefully, help a little bit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I think
some of that info in them.
Right, try. Because I think it'll change their lives.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for saying that, because I don't think that we would be working with teams, even though we love it, if there wasn't a bigger why to it. We love to see teams win. Who doesn't? We're competitive. We like to see them max out. We like to see them reach their limits of their capabilities. But if there wasn't something bigger to that, then I'm not sure we'd spend that much energy on it. But there's nothing more rewarding than seeing an 18, 19-year-old athlete or a high school athlete or anybody who comes back to you 5 or 10 years later and is doing really good things. You can see their confidence level has changed. They know how they want to be treated by human beings. They don't let anyone take advantage of them. And they have the confidence to go out in this world and tackle anything. And if you could play a small role in that, whether their team won championships or not, of course, during that time period, they want to win a lot. Who doesn't? But if that all ends for everybody, even for Danny, it ended after 10 years.
Danny would, and it's funny is when you talk to him, and I was thinking of Jack as well, that when they talk about their super elite careers that they each had, it's not about the accomplishments that they made on the field or as in service, but it was the culture.
One thing,
and it was
relationships.
The relationships.
That's what Coach Osborne says. The only thing he missed about coaching was the relationships that he made. And so for Jack and Danny, who were the elite of what they did, it had to end for both of them at some point. They had long careers, longer than most, but it ended. And if they walk out of that career and they don't have the coping skills and the mindset to take it on to the next level, so what do they learn from that is what they love teaching right now. That's why Jack and Danny are really good teachers.
They're so excited about it.
They're good teachers.
Yes.
And I was in with Danny in a seminar, and he's a good teacher. He teaches different than I do, as he should. He teaches different than Jack, but he's a great teacher, and so is Jack, because they've lived it, they've internalized it, and they know what it takes to be great, and not just winning games, but how do you win in life? How do you, like you said, be a better parent, be a better human being, better friend, and all these same skills we're teaching, they're life skills. They're not, of course they apply to sport and business and SEALs, but they're life skills. And if you don't develop them in life skills somewhere along the way, then how do you grow into a healthy adult? Most people have to learn them from somewhere.
They're not. It's not exclusive to the elite. This is something that it's available to anybody.
That's why I'm doing it. It's not for. I'm not doing this for the elite. I'm doing it for the people. Everybody, I mean,
for the us, for me, everybody, for all of us,
right?
None of us are. Very few people are elite, like Steve Jobs or Tiger Woods. I mean, none of us are. We're just.
But they all need the same thing.
We're finding our way through the world, trying to be what I would call. And I'll leave it at this: is the best version of our mindset. It doesn't have to be what might people say is elite, like the Microsoft guy, Bill Gates.
Yes.
That he's the top of all time in the world at, software. But can you be the best version of yourself? That's where we try to get people. Like you said, meet them where they're at. And then can we take them up a notch? I say, can you give me 1 more inch, 1 more degree?
Right.
1 more percent. What does that look like when an entire team gives 1 more percent?
It's not insurmountable. It's not the whole goal.
It's 1%.
Yeah.
And that's what we call a chunk of a goal, right? Trying to get 100 pounds all at once, overwhelming.
Yeah.
Can I get 3 pounds this month? Okay, I think I can do that. That's that's called the chunking of goals, because without it, it can get overwhelming. And so that's what we're trying to get people, is just a little bit better version of themselves. And where does that take them?
3 whole pounds in a month.
That's a lot. But you figure,
right?
But you figure if you lose 3 pounds, for some people lose 3 pounds, or you can gain 3 pounds. If you gain 3 pounds,
it's easier to gain 3 pounds. Why is it easier to gain 3
pounds? But it's a lot.
Yeah.
If you gain 3 or 5 pounds, it's so much. And if you lose 5 pounds, you don't give yourself the credit.
That's true. Right? No, that's true. You don't give yourself the credit.
You never do.
Yeah,
but if you gain 5, you can feel it.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's so true.
Right?
Yes.
Your pants are breathing hard.
100%.
You're like, oh God, I can't hold it.
Yeah.
I can't.
I'm trying.
5 more and I'm done.
That little button sweating. I'm trying.
All right. So social media, can they follow you along on social media, or how can they stay in touch with you?
Yes. I mean, I've been dragged into the 21st century.
Yes, you have.
I have. But I am on Twitter, And it's Doc, and then a lower, what do you call that? Lower
Underscore?
thing?
Underscore.
What do you
Elite
call that?
Mind.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So it's Doc _ Elite Mind.
Okay.
Yep.
They made me change mine, which is fine.
Okay.
Jack and Danny, or Scotty.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah,
It
that's
moved me
funny.
ahead.
No, that's good. That's
Took
good.
my picture of me and my 10-year-old daughter at the time off and put my own
something else.
picture.
Okay.
She's 17 now. Selfie.
Okay, good. What's your What's your
Her
daughter's
name's Sophie.
My daughter's name's Sophia.
You have Bennett and Sophia.
Bennett,
and I've
you
Bennett and
have
Sophie.
got to be kidding
No.
me.
Bennett and Sophia.
So my daughter's 17. One of the most.
And you're a doctor.
She's
and you're
just a,
oh, never
not a
mind.
doctor.
Okay.
no. Sophie. That's the Greek form,
That is
right?
crazy.
And how old is Sophia?
She's 14.
Sophie's 17, and she's just this neat, kind, beautiful kid.
So, yeah.
And
Oh my God.
so yeah, so
That's
I mean,
amazing.
So they took that picture away, and that's fine. Now I just found out that I'm a nurse told me that I'm on Instagram. And I said, well, I think I might be, but I don't know how to get on it. But Scotty runs my
doing it.
Instagram. So, and I'm on
That's all
LinkedIn.
right.
But then, we have performancemountain.com,
Yes.
our website. That's really the one.
That's the real connection. And
Yeah.
and you'll see the podcasts with you guys, and Scott puts the podcasts out as well to keep of Performance Mountain. To put those out there. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff coming
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah,
And
we're having a lot of
Performance
fun helping people.
Sounds like it.
And it's not like you said, Creighton men's basketball. That's awesome. We love those kind of things. Those are higher profile, but
Yes.
we help a lot of people and all
You're
walks of
working to
life.
get into more schools and more companies, and I mean,
Yes.
it can work in so many different.
Well, the companies
situations.
really have found that they have a gap in how leadership and and some generational issues. Like how do you communicate with a different generation than you? And they have all kinds of things that even the most successful companies, they can still do it better. And when they're open to that idea of like saying, how do we take it from here to here? So I love working with people that are already relatively successful, but they want it. Maybe they're second
Right.
or third in the conference.
What's
or
keeping
second-
them from-
but- or second or third in their industry, but they want to be the best.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get them there? How do you help them gain that extra inch or percent or degree? And that's fun because when you're at that level, those edges, it's hard to get that
That's
extra
just it.
piece.
Yeah.
When you talk about the elite teams, and
It's
it's
hard.
like a little bit makes a huge difference
It's-
because they're all so sharp.
Yeah, or just as
Yeah.
important is keeping them from dropping a little bit, because sometimes you can get arrogant.
Just a little bit.
You can get arrogant or not realize that things could be slipping a little bit because you're so confident that it's always worked this way. When maybe an outside observer could say,
Things have changed a little.
and here's what we're seeing, that if you continue down this path, you're going to see a bigger drift of your team's performance or business performance.
Right.
And so as outside people, that's what we do when we do our culture assessments is we're not assessing a culture and saying that sometimes it's the top culture we've ever seen. And we still find 8 or 10 things that if you could do these things better in the business world or team world, maybe you could either take it up a notch or at least
8 or 10. I like that because last time the number was, what was it, 36?
36 was it?
Is the number 36 that Danny things that Danny found wrong with your swing?
Oh, it's 34. And
34.
That was Jack.
Oh, that was Jack that did that.
Exactly 34 errors of my swing.
No, numbers getting down there a little bit.
But
Though.
it hasn't changed a bit, no. Right? You talk about somebody who can
Right?
help or hurt your confidence. There you go.
There you
Someone
go.
with the exact number
the
right
way
there,
Jack
right.
told me it hurt my confidence.
Hurt me. That hurt me. Cut me deep, Shrek. Well, thank you so much for coming on our podcast
Yeah, we
and spending some
appreciate
time
it.
with this. I mean, enlightening. And I think honestly, it's super helpful for me. Few control issues, whatever.
Yeah, I have no initials after mine, and I could have told you that one.
Whatever.
I picked the lowest hanging fruit. You notice that?
I know.
That's
It's like the person who
Kinda
reads
obs.
cards or reads people's future. You pick the things that are most common.
Right.
And you're likely to hit it, right? Control.
Nailed it.
Whatever. I don't care.
Whatever.
It doesn't bother me one bit. Thank you.
Thanks
You're
again.
welcome. I had a blast. Thank you.
Dr. Larry Widman, thank you.
Pat and JT. It's Pat and JT, Instagram and Twitter, and also on Facebook. 402-403-9478.